Hi guys, and welcome to KCG channel. Sorry for my accent, I'm new here. I came here to work from the Orion Nebula M42. In this video, I will tell you about my own pipeline for selecting shaders and textures to create a game of any genre. It may not be ideal, but in any case, I hope that it will give you a lot of fresh information that will help you in developing your own game. Chapter 1. Decide on the angle, predominant camera location in the game. It is best to do the final selection of shaders and work with textures when you have already decided on the game angle and how close the player will be able to see certain 3D models in the game. For example, if it's a first-person shooter, you'll basically see everything that's at the player's eye level. If it's a Diablo-style game, the environment and character will always be at a sufficient distance from the camera, and overly detailed textures may not be required, provided that you do not have a camera change to closer angles to the character in the game environment or camera change during cutscene. The texture density in this example will be approximately the same everywhere, but textures containing many small and clear details should still have a slightly higher resolution. While the grass texture contains sharper fine details, lowering the resolution for it will be more critical than for the sand texture. If you are sure that the player will always see these objects shown by arrows only from afar, then it makes sense to make the texture resolution 2-4 times smaller than for objects located at the player's eye level. If you are not sure, then it makes sense to make the same resolution as for other objects that are located at the player's eye level. In any case, all objects should be created with a reserve in texture resolution so that in the future it will be possible to either lower the texture resolution or increase it at the stage of optimizing your game. If your game has the same angle as Lineage 2, then the texture resolution will be about the same everywhere, except for the character. The character will have 2-3 times higher texture density than the environment and monsters. Chapter 2. Selecting a visual style for textures and geometry. You need to decide what visual style you would like to create your game in. Realism, semi-realism, stylus, cartoon, or something else. This will directly determine which shader you need to choose and how many texture maps you need. Since some shaders support only one texture, mostly for cartoon and stylized games, and some shaders support 5-6 textures, mostly for realistic and semi-realistic games. After choosing a shader, you need to understand where and how best to place visual accents in your game using additional texture maps. Since if you choose a realistic or semi-realistic style, then perhaps the normal map and other texture maps, such as ambient occlusion, specular, nettleness, and others, will not be visible everywhere, due to the fact that these objects are at a certain angle or are located too far from the camera. This is mainly needed to optimize the file weight of your game, as well as to speed up loading times and reduce the load on the video card and RAM. Sometimes it happens that some object in the game has 6 texture maps, but it looks almost as flat as if it had only one diffuse texture map. And besides, such an object in the game weighs several times more, and is visually practically indistinguishable compared to other objects that only have a diffuse map. Therefore, if your game will run on weak target devices, then it is important to understand this and take it into account when optimizing 3D graphics in your game. Feel free to remove unnecessary texture maps from shaders if they do not play a big role, or these objects are located very far from the player. Chapter 3. Selecting a suitable shader for your game, standard or mobile or toon or something else. Try to choose the shader that would satisfy all your needs and be maximally optimized for your visual style. Since if you have a mobile game with cartoon stylization, and the materials use only one diffuse texture, it will be more reasonable to choose a shader, mobile diffuse, instead of standard, where there will be many empty slots that will not be used, but at the same time, the resources of the device on which this game is running will be consumed. Chapter 4. Selection of texture maps and setting the resolution of the textures themselves for each game object. Depending on the functions of each object in the game, it will have different sets of texture maps as well as resolution. Objects that play a major role and that we will see most of the time while in the game, such as the character, for example, and all the items that he picks up and uses in the game, will have a texture resolution 2 or 3 times higher than for everything else. The environment and all objects located at the player's eye level, that is what we see from the game camera, will have a standard texture resolution, that is, X-zone. Everything that is close to the player's eye visibility will have a texture resolution of X 0.5, and everything that is far beyond the player's visibility will have a texture resolution of approximately X 0.1. You can set more precise requirements for selecting texture resolution for various game objects, depending on their distance from the camera and their role in the game yourself, since they may differ significantly from those I have suggested. I want to add a few more words about developing a game from scratch for those who are not familiar with it. It often happens that developers cannot decide for a long time on the game angle and what and how they want to do in their game. In this case, I advise you to start developing with the most basic things in the game, with gray textures, or with very simple texturing, or using only color fills for the character and the game world. And gradually move towards what you like in the current version of your game, gradually improving and developing. This you will reach the final vision of your game. I advise never to create something for your game immediately in its final form, be it a character, equipment, environment, or something else, since often you will have to redo all this many times during the development of the game, which will take a lot of your energy and time. In fact, the base of the game should be created by 1 or 2 people, artist to programmer, since to create the main idea of the game does not require many resources, and this is a very important foundation of your project. But this is my personal opinion, which may not coincide with your opinion, or the opinion of the majority. My opinion is based only on personal experience. Thank you all for watching. Have a nice day. I love you all. Kisses and hugs. See you soon.